Excuse me for my voice, but I have never seen anything like it.
You believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Welcome to the show. It's the best day of the week. It is Film Friday. Thank God it's Friday. This has been a very busy week for me, along with, I think, a lot of you guys. So, thanks for tuning in to the podcast. Let's unwind while breaking down Downhill. Now, this movie came out about a week ago, right around the same time Valentine's Day came around, I guess. Sonic the Hedgehog and Fantasy Island, both of those movies came out at the same time as this movie. So I saw Fantasy Island. We did that review last week. It's on the podcast page. You can check it out. Not doing Sonic the Hedgehog. You're not going to get that from me on this channel. You're not going to hear that review. We're going to pretend it doesn't exist. So this movie comes out. I had very high expectations, and I'm not going to say sorely disappointed, but I was disappointed in this film. So before we get into all of that, I need to tell you, we had a bunch of really good podcasts all week. You need to go check out Alexander Haynes' pod we did yesterday, where we talk about the coronavirus and also the Democratic primaries, what we can expect for Super Tuesday. I have been thinking about that interview since we pretty much hung up the phones, because this coronavirus thing's really scaring me a little bit, low-key. And if you aren't washing your hands, you need to start. I was in a Walmart bathroom recently, which normally would be somewhere on the middle of the scale of disgusting places to be, and every single person in that bathroom was washing their hands very thoroughly. So I don't know if they listen to the pod or not, but the coronavirus is really neat, guys. Really do need to get hand sanitizer. The other thing is, I did a podcast, not on this channel. It's called The San Mo Show, where great guy, his name's Cleveland. He talked to me about a bunch of different topics, including sports. So if you're into all of that, go check out that pod as well. But let's talk about Downhill. So I go to this movie by myself, like I do most of the time, and I was surprised by the lack of attendance there. It was a Tuesday night. It's about 8 o'clock. I know that's not a great date night, but I was expecting more than 0 people in this movie theater. It was in one of the smaller movie theaters, too, of this theater that I go to quite often. So immediately when they put me in this theater, I'd seen a couple A24 films there over the summer, which sometimes don't get as big a crowd as, let's say, the Avengers movies. So I wasn't shocked that they put it in a smaller theater, but at the same time, I was surprised to be the only person there, especially with a movie with Will Ferrell and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, 2 of my favorite actors of all time, especially for comedy. So the problem with Downhill is it's a dark comedy, and it deals with, the premise of it is, after leaving a family is about to be killed by an avalanche during a family ski vacation in the Alps, the husband, played by Will Ferrell, runs away, leaving Louis-Dreyfus and their 2 children, their 2 sons, to die. So, like any type of situation like that, there's going to be a little bit of awkwardness. If your dad just runs away from your mom and you guys, it's going to be pretty awkward if your significant other, your spouse, dips and doesn't save your children, doesn't save you. Now, I get it. It's 2020. I'm not going to make any assumptions about the way that many people, how marriages are going today. I'm just going to say, if I was with my significant other and I had our 2 children with us on one side of the park bench, and a bear showed up, and they weren't there to, hang out with us and fight off this bear while we were at a picnic, I'd be pretty pissed off. So, it makes sense for Billy, played by Julia Dreyfus, to be mad at Pete, played by Will Ferrell. Was this the best acting by this pair? I would say no. I would say that the appearances they made on press tour, I saw them on a bunch of late-night shows together, Ferrell and Dreyfus together, and they had great chemistry. And I think that any character that you put next to Julia Louis-Dreyfus, I call her the queen of comedy. I love Tina Fey, I love Amy Poehler. There's no disrespect there, but I think Dreyfus is a little bit of head and shoulders above those guys. Where every single show she's been on has been a wild success. Seinfeld is a staple of the 90s, and of course Veep is one of the greatest shows ever on HBO. So the fact that she can move off of television, go into movies, which I know she kind of talked about doing, and that she hinted to that when Veep's final season was wrapping up. She said she was going to do more movies. This is not the way that you want to start. I don't want to jump too hard at this movie. I don't want to get too much in the weeds because I do like some parts of it. So I'm going to start slipping in some things that I liked. Dreyfuss in this movie outperforms Will Ferrell to me. Ferrell is a talented comedic actor. I don't think there's any doubt there. But in a movie like this, especially coming off of Uncut Gems this summer, where Sandler completely flips his character arc and plays a more serious character, shows his acting chops a little bit more. This is a movie where there's times where Will Ferrell should be getting laughs. And, you know, we talk about the rewatchability, which we're going to get to in a second towards the end of the podcast. And we're going to get to a couple other things. But in a comedy, you want to laugh. I did not laugh during this movie. I don't think once. And I wanted to. Dreyfuss is one of the most talented physical actresses, I think, in the business. I think that the ways that she does just her small movements, her face, the way that she can move her eyebrows and make different reactions to other characters on screen, she always does an incredible job there. At the same time, I'm going to be completely honest, I'm rewatching Seinfeld. I'm binging that so that we can talk about it one of these Tuesdays coming up. But every little move that she makes, every little action that she has on screen, it doesn't take away from the scene. It adds to it, I think. And that's tough. There's a really hard line to walk there. The making an addition to the scene, but without taking away from the source or the substance of the movie. The other thing I didn't really enjoy about this movie is I didn't like the character of Charlotte. So Charlotte is the fun-loving receptionist at the desk. They come in, the family comes in. They find out very quickly that this is not a family hotel that they're staying at. This isn't a family ski lodge they're staying at. This is an adult ski lodge, that the family one is about 20 minutes down the road, which if you don't have kids, I will explain to you that when it's just you and your teenage kids, or I guess they were more tweenish, that you want them to have other kids to kind of be around with so you get a little bit of you time with you and your spouse. So the fact that there are no other children in this hotel, immediately red flags. The other thing about Charlotte, she's with the Swedish accent. She later in the movie talks Dreyfuss into trying to have her cheat on her husband. She's just a weird character. And, you know, this entire movie is based on a Finnish film, I want to say. It's based on a foreign film, the source material for this movie. So you already have a source material that worked. People enjoyed the movie. People went to see it. It was good enough that they thought a production company in the United States could remake it with two great comedic actors. So the source material is there. I don't know how you fumble the bag so hard on this movie where the character who's supposed to add the most, I thought, didn't add anything in the character of Charlotte. If anything, every scene that she was in, I felt like she took away from the overall enjoyment of the film. For me, every scene that especially the scene where her and Billy are going up into the mountains, where Billy is having a me day and leaving her husband with the kids after they got in this fight over the avalanche. Charlotte trying to talk to her into, well, you know, sex is just physical, and you know, you can cheat on your husband. It's not that big of a deal. I didn't really love that. Didn't like that message very much. Didn't think that was like the right thing to be saying. And then, of course, when Dreyfuss, she doesn't sleep with her ski instructor. They do kiss. You know, I get it, right? I understand that maybe there's a moment of weakness. She's in a situation where she has her husband potentially leave her and her kids. I get it. But it doesn't seem like the right thing. It didn't feel like the right character move for her. And I watched her as Selena on Veep, who would do a bunch of crazy, dumb things. This didn't feel like it was gonna. This didn't feel like it was in the right mantra for it. So the other thing about this movie, and for those of you that haven't seen it yet, I didn't give any spoiler alerts, but we're in for a ride now, so just buckle up. The other thing I didn't enjoy about this movie is that it felt like, sure, the main storyline is that dad leaves the kids and the wife underneath this fake avalanche that doesn't end up happening. Okay? But that conflict doesn't really ever get resolved. You know, he goes up there to save Billy, quote unquote, air quote, save Billy, but not really. He doesn't really do that. It's all fake to make the kids not hate their dad anymore. But we never really get any conflict resolution with the fact that his dad died 8 months ago. Okay, we never get any resolution with that. And I thought that was going to be something that was going to get solved at some point in this movie. And maybe I missed it. I don't think I did. I was there from curtains up to curtains close. I know I didn't miss any substance of this movie. So if I'm leaving the movie theater thinking that, you know, some conflict wasn't ever resolved in this, I get it. Maybe you want to leave the fans with a cliffhanger, but that's not the cliffhanger you want. Speaking of cliffhangers, we talk about conflict resolution. We talk about the pinnacle of this movie being Billy getting with the ski instructor. At the end of the movie, these two are still at odds. Will Ferrell's character is still not a good husband or father. And then the snow falls off the top of the roof, and the two split up instead of, I guess, Dreyfuss wanted Ferrell to hug her. It just felt like at the end of this movie, I was left wanting more. Okay? And very rarely do I come on these podcasts when I'm breaking down these movies for you guys. Very, very rarely do I come on and I do all the negatives of this movie. But there wasn't a lot of positives. The positives that I did see, I thought the kids were really good in this movie, and I really like Zach Wood's character. Now, ironically enough, Zach gets to keep his name in this movie, which I think is always really funny. When an actor, they just write his name into the script that, oh, you're going to keep the same first name. Zach Woods comes on as Pete's work friend, quote unquote, a guy that Billy doesn't really know, who is also going across Europe with his girlfriend Rosie. So Zach and Rosie meet up, and then you get the really good scene, probably the most rewatchable scene of the movie. Zach and Rosie come to the hotel, the lodge where the family is staying. This is after Pete leaves his family to potentially get crushed by an avalanche, and is essentially denying it. Never really wants to talk about it. Never really owns up to his mistake to this point. And Billy brings out the kids and says, "Your dad ran away, right?" And then they all agree. But Zach Woods in this film is low-key one of the best parts. I know we talked about Avenue 5 a couple weeks ago on the pod on Television Tuesday, and his role in that show, and how I felt like I was missing something, how I wanted more out of that show. But in this movie, he gave me everything I wanted. He played the part of the young guy who's thinking about marrying his fiance. His fiance is a little bit pushy. Rosie's a little bit pushy. She doesn't take any crap, which, you know, we support that over here. But at the same time, you want Zach to be able to make autonomous decisions on his own. And you can tell that there is something missing, that he wants a little bit more either out of the relationship, or he wants a little bit more out of him and Rosie's relationship. But Zach Woods blew me away in this movie. Thought he did a really good job. Thought he played his part perfectly. So let's talk about the most rewatchable scene. We already mentioned the Travel Lodge scene. The other scene that I thought was really rewatchable was the scene, of course, when Pete and the kids go down the hill, and Billy is going to go down the quote-unquote beast by herself, and then she ends up faking getting hurt so Pete can go save her, so that the sons now can say at least a little bit that their father was a hero, a little bit, even though I don't know personally if I wouldn't be able to see through that facade at age like 15 or 14. So I don't know how much I buy that. But that was probably the most rewatchable scene. This movie, does it have a character that I think is going to build off this? No, I think Ferrell and Dreyfuss are both going to have. This is not a career killer by any means. This is not something that is probably going to stick around with them. But when we go back on the IMDb pages in like 5 to 10 years, I don't think a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, I remember Downhill." Case in point, nobody was at the theater when I went to see it. So that's going to do it for the show. I know this was a shorter one, but this gives you plenty of time to go check out the baseball podcast where we talk about gambling odds on the American League, the National League, the MVP odds, who we like, who we hate, and who we're going to make a little bit of cash off of this season. Also, be checking out the divisional podcasts that are going to be coming out. We're starting with the American League East. That comes out on Monday, so you're going to be wanting to look out for that. Also, every Monday and Friday, remember, we got baseball pods coming out, so be on the lookout for those. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll check up on you guys next week.